pretty straightforward. Okay, the last thing I wanted to go over in this tutorial was the GUI components, how to basically draw stuff to the screen. So let me go ahead and grab some code. Give me 1 second. Okay, so the way our GUI system works is you create a function, basically a paint function, and this is called every single render frame, and it's that function's job to display the GUI, to draw it on the screen. So one of the core concepts with our GUI system is the idea of a rect, or a rectangle. Every GUI component has a base of a rectangle. So for example, in the very beginning here, you can see I create a new variable screen, which is a rectangle the size of the screen. Once you have this rectangle, you can draw things to it. So you can draw a picture to it. You can draw a control to it, like a text input dialog or anything. The rectangles are just responsible for defining the layout. Okay, so the other thing is skins. We have a default standard skin, and you can store it in a variable. I'll go over this in just a second. So we have the screen rectangle. So if the pocket is at 800 by 600, this will be an 800 by 600 rectangle. We're going to call a function pad on it. The function pad will return a new rectangle that is based on the parameters you give it. So the first parameter is always the name of the new rectangle, so you can access it later. And the pad function takes 6 parameters: a left, right, top, bottom, width, and height. Now it assumes that 2 of these parameters you specified will be nil, and these parameters will be auto-generated. So for here, the left and right, you can see that I'm specifying the distance between the left of the screen and the control. It doesn't matter. But the distance between the right of the screen and the control is always going to be 10 pixels. So this means that even if the screen resizes, it'll always maintain 10 pixels between, as a margin between the controls. It's the same with the top and bottom. So this will be 10 pixels from the left, 10 pixels from the top, a width of 60 and a height of 20. And it will always maintain that. This will basically do the job of keeping it in the top right of the screen at all times. No matter how the window is resized, it will always be sitting at the top right with a 10 pixel padding. So now we have this new rectangle, the score counter rectangle. Now we can draw something to it. So we're going to call draw label. The first parameter is a clipping parameter. If you pass a rectangle to it, then anything that is drawn outside of that clipping rectangle will be ignored. It'll just draw it within there. This is good for scroll controls or any other controls that you want to cut off the image. The second parameter is the skin. Again, I'll go over that in just a sec. And the last parameter is the string that you want to display. So again, this whole code will draw a label in the top right corner with the score in it. Okay. So I told you guys I would get back to that skin thing, so I will. Let me grab some code. Okay. So by default, whenever you draw a control, you can just pass it this skin variable, which you can get from GUI Manager as standard skin, and it will use our default images for text box controls, for backgrounds, for text size, text layout. But if you want, you can define your own skin for each item. So up here, I'll show you. This is a new skin definition, basically. So the variable jump button is a Lua table that has a couple keys that we're looking for. Each different control has different keys. So refer back to the function reference in the engine. It'll tell you exactly what keys it's looking for. For example, this is a button, and buttons expect a normal, an overstate when the button is down, and what text to draw on top of it, as well as drawing an image on top of it if you like. So for the normal state, we're going to create a new GUI style. There is some foreground and background stuff here. Mostly what you guys will be using will be background. So background will basically just draw an image. If you specify stretch equals true, it'll fill the rectangle that it's drawn on. If not, it'll just cut it off. The foreground parameter is a special parameter that is used for the borders of buttons and stuff like that. Basically, if you pass it an image, it will cut up the image and stretch the middle parts. So this is good if you want buttons that scale nicely. You can come see us if you want more information on that. I won't go into too much detail. So we defined this new skin, jump button. So down here, whenever we draw a button, you can see we can just pass it that instead. Again, the button, you need to create a rectangle. In this case, there's a 10-unit padding on the right and a 10-unit padding on the bottom, so this will be in the bottom right. Call draw button, pass it the skin, pass it some text to draw on the button, and the function. So since this function doesn't exist, I'm going to go ahead and create that function. Yep. Copy. Paste. There we go. Target jump, I'm not going to go into it too much. It's basically just a for loop that applies force. So now, if we go back to chess mode, and we hit refresh, oh, sorry, I missed one step. I have to apologize. So now we created this function, the paint score function. We need to register it with the GUI system. And how you do that is with a GUI manager.call. So I'm going to take this GUI manager.call, go back up into the on scene start, and insert that into there. So GUI manager.call takes a name and a GUI function that's going to register. If you ever want to stop drawing that, you can call GUI manager.stop. So this is good if you create a function for a specific dialog, like a uwin dialog. You can do a .call to bring it up and a .stop to take it down. So I'm going to go ahead and save that and reload. And this should be much more successful. There we go. So the top right, you see there's a 0 there because I haven't hit any targets yet. And the bottom right, there's a button. You can see that it changes slightly whenever you mouse over it. And whenever you click it, it'll call the function. So yeah, that's the basic steps for the GUI. This is the basic game I want to show you guys. It goes over a lot of things. Do you guys have any questions on this game in particular? Yeah.
Well, not this game exactly.
Okay.
A couple of syntax questions.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed you have function calls of, say, fire, it's just fire. The others, you actually say function.
Yeah.
Is that just inline coding, or is that something you use with system calls?
No, that.
Most of them have to do with system, like camera and so forth.
No, that's entirely inline coding. So take a look at this. The set event call takes a string and a function. Whether you want that function to just straight out be the function such as fire, which you've defined earlier, or you can just make a function inline. So if you just do a function and end, put the code you want to execute in between, this whole thing will return a function, and you can just use that.
So we can put it out separately if you want.
Yeah. If you want, you can take this entire thing, and just do that. Function temp. There we go. You can do that. That's the exact same thing.